Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about a topic we like to call customer serendipity. And what do we mean by the term customer serendipity? You may know the term serendipity to mean an event that happens by a matter of coincidence or chance. But in marketing, we think that customer serendipity is not a matter of chance. In fact, with the right strategy and the right technology, we believe you can deliver the right content at exactly the right time that it matters to your audience. It seems like a pleasant surprise, but it becomes a trusted and welcomed interaction for your audience. Today, we'd like to show you how we're achieving this at Arkansas Children's Hospital. But let's start with some introductions first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Pierce. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Marketing at Arkansas Children's. We are the only pediatric health system in the state of Arkansas, and we're really on a mission to advance child health, not only for the children of Arkansas, but also beyond the state of Arkansas. As part of that, for the last 3.5 years, we've really put intentional focus on improving the digital experience for everyone who interacts with us, from patients and families to employees to job seekers. Through this digital transformation, we've established some wonderful relationships with partners like White Rhino.
And hi, I'm Terry Sun. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at White Rhino. We are experts in human behavior. We work at the intersection of technology and design to create frictionless digital experiences. And we do that for healthcare organizations like Arkansas Children's, as well as global business to business and business to consumer brands. So today we're going to start by sharing a bit about our journey. We're going to talk about what our vision was for personalization, how we achieved organizational alignment around our goals and strategy, and then we're going to share some of the specific frameworks that we use to get our personalization off the ground. So let's start with the vision.
This whole project really started with the idea of delivering a better customer experience. And in the early days of our digital transformation, we often referred to the Domino's pizza tracker. And whether you enjoy the pizza or not, I think we can all agree they were some of the first to really set the bar for customer experience when it comes to tracking your order online, especially when you order food. And so our thought was, if I know when my pizza is being put in the oven, I should really know what the status of my child's care journey is, especially if it's a significant diagnosis that the child has received. So we set out on a mission to deliver a customized, journey-based approach to our website. And to get there, we really started with a lot of research.
The first bit of research that we conducted was a lot of secondary research. We looked at the psychology of what it's like to parent a sick child. We also talked with a lot of parents in the state of Arkansas. And what we learned was that unlike ordering a pizza, the journey for a parent who has a child that's in the hospital can be quite overwhelming. Being a mom of a 7-year-old myself, I can speak firsthand that when you have a child, they become part of your identity. Parenting becomes part of who you are at your core. And so psychologically speaking, if you have a child that's in the hospital, you start to lose a little bit of that sense of identity. Suddenly, you're entrusting day-to-day decisions to somebody else, and you don't have as much control as a parent. So we asked ourselves, how can we champion these families in this time of anxiety and confusion? The other thing that we learned in this research process was that the one thing that parents really wanted to know most was what their journey was going to be like. What was the journey that was ahead of them?
So with these learnings in hand, we created what we called our digital vision, which is really a place for families to understand and navigate their journey as a digital home for them to understand and navigate and coordinate their care. And so for us, it was really about building more than a website. It was really about building a digital home for our families. And much like the pizza tracker, you can see here on the right, we segmented the digital experience into stages of the patient journey, which is essential to the customer experience when you think about how much content can be overwhelming when a patient is first diagnosed. We even built our secondary navigation with the stages of the patient journey, so symptoms, conditions, treatments, and even health at home. We know that when it comes to a sick child, whether simple or complex, there are no two journeys that are the same. And so we knew we needed to lead the pediatric healthcare industry with our personalization strategies.
And so what do we mean by personalization? Well, it used to be that websites were essentially static brochures. But today, with the modern personalized website architecture, we can change the content that appears for each person as they visit the website based on their past and their current behavior and interactions. Each user gets a unique experience that's really tailored to their needs.
One thing to note about our enhanced architecture was that we were committed from the beginning to really getting that organizational buy-in from leadership. We collectively made a commitment to technology, and that really made it easier for us to garner support for our investment in Sitecore. So when a parent has a sick child, the journey can be overwhelming. I think we've already talked about that, and those of you who are parents know that. So we know that instead of serving up all possible content, we really need to serve up the right content at the right time. So to do this, we really needed to first understand what our different audiences needed at each stage of their journey. For example, for a lot of parents, blog content is important early in that journey when they're first researching a disease. MyChart, which is their account management portal, might be more helpful during the treatment stage of their journey or when they're needing to schedule an appointment or talk to the care team. We also discovered through our research that some patients and parents even watched our patient stories while they were in the hospital with their sick kiddos. And for us, that was telling because it was obvious that that created an emotional connection for them to see that someone else was going through what their child was going through at the same time.
And so we mapped those insights, as you can see on the right here, to the different stages of the journey. And this helped us in two ways. It helped us understand what content we would want to serve up in personalization once we knew where somebody was in their journey. It also helped us with our content scoring model. As people moved through the website, we were able to identify where they are in their current journey based on the different types of content we saw them interacting with. Before we get into more specifics of our scoring strategy, let's talk about another important part of the process.
So months before we ever created our vision, we really had to rally the organization. And I alluded to this earlier, but it really meant us educating them on why we were doing this digital transformation, why it was so important. And it also meant building a culture of personalization and making sure they understood why we needed to do it. And so this started with gathering a lot of data. We looked at what the industry was saying, what our patients were saying, and we knew that data talks. So we were able to bring this information back to those stakeholders to show them the importance of what we were trying to accomplish with our digital transformation. For example, we found that 80% of our patients wanted to schedule an appointment online. Not surprising when you think about the fact that they can order a Domino's pizza online. 76% also wanted to live chat with us rather than always having to pick up the phone to call in. So once we had this data and began to show it to our stakeholders internally, it was very easy for them to see the importance of the transformation that we were trying to accomplish. And part of this also meant investing in best-in-class tools. So we partnered with Avia, a collaborative network of hospitals, all committed to sharing learnings and improving their digital front door experience. And we quickly learned through this that Sitecore was the best-in-class tool that would help us deliver an optimized personal experience for our digital users. The other important piece of this was really creating that alignment on the front end. So getting buy-in, meaning we invited a lot of stakeholders to the table. For us, this meant our IT, our extended marketing team, our executive leadership, our patients and families, which we've already talked a little bit about, and really involving them in the process and using that as an opportunity not only to engage them in the process, but also to educate them. We held frequent organizational town halls where we would educate stakeholders on the digital strategies we were implementing and why they were important. We even used it as a chance to hear feedback from them and what they were hearing from their areas so that we could better inform our strategy going forward.
One of the workshops that we held during this process was to get everybody in a room and put all of our business goals and audiences up on the wall. And we actually did a voting exercise and had a lot of discussion about where the priorities were. There's a lot of audiences when you're talking about a hospital website, from researchers to patients to donors to potential employees and existing employees. And so how should we prioritize those? This was a really important exercise early in the process because it allowed us to focus our energy when we moved into the wireframe process. We found ourselves moving much faster, being able to design first for the priority audiences, but then also making sure that we're accounting for the goals of our other audiences as well. And finally, the other really important part of this organizational alignment was around data privacy. In healthcare, HIPAA in the US is the law that governs data privacy for patients. And really, it's there to ensure that patients get to decide how their health data is used. And this really is an important topic for any industry and really regardless of regulations, because at the end of the day, it's really about establishing consumer trust. We know from researchers like McKinsey that 87% of consumers won't even do business with a company if they have concerns about their security practices. So consumer trust is more important than ever. And so how can you make sure that you're safeguarding that with a personalization strategy? How we approached it was we had early conversations with the compliance team at Arkansas Children's. You can see on the right here that we mapped different use cases to help that conversation and talk about what are the different ways in which we might be using personalization and what potential risks does that introduce around data privacy. These are very helpful conversations that don't just happen once, but have happened over time. And we continue to evolve our rules and policies around personalization to make sure that we're maintaining that customer trust. The risks will really be different for every organization and every industry. But the one thing, again, to keep in mind is that the goalpost is the same. It's to build and maintain that customer trust. And so, what we recommend is always starting your personalization conversations with the question of what value will this personalization provide to our users that they, in return, will give us the authority to connect with, connect their information to our brand and to safeguard that information. And we believe if you start with that question, you're going to design not just a secure experience for your patient's data or your customer's data, but you're really going to build an experience that your audience wants to interact with. And that will allow both you and your audience to get the best out of your personalization features. So, with the organization aligned and a clear vision, the only thing left to do was to put our plan into action. Let's talk about some of how that worked. We started by mapping our digital experience goals, which you can see here on the right, to each of the pillars from the Arkansas Children's Strategic Plan, which you see here on the left. If you take this first row, for example, the strategic pillar was really about advancing patient care, delivering the best possible patient care across the continuum of care as patients move from symptoms to diagnosis to treatment. And so we set out for our digital experience to really support families along their journey and how could we use personalization to accomplish that.
And then our build community pillar, which is really based around providing care for the whole child in their community and by allowing them to manage their care at home. It was really critical for us, as you saw earlier, as we were building the journey. We even built our entire service line section based off of the health at home concept, which is really about arming parents with content and information they need to take care of their child while at home.
So we took this first strategic pillar in digital experience goal, and then we started mapping specific marketing and business objectives to that. From a marketing perspective, we wanted to customize content along the patient journey so that we could improve conversion and increase that engagement. And that meant back to the business goal, more conversions equals more patient volume. So as you can see, we were able to create that closed loop goal and strategy.
And then we took it a step further by building out our personalization goals. For example, our newest hospital, which opened in early 2018, offers different services than our flagship hospital. So it was really important for us in the early days of our personalization journey to make sure that the newest hospital had a different web experience than visitors who might be looking for services at our flagship hospital. So for us, that meant things like customizing calls to action to be appropriate for specific appointment scheduling queues or appointment request forms. And it also meant making sure that the right services were showing to customers in that area to make sure that they could see the right information at the right time.
And the last piece of the personalization puzzle was to figure out the scoring strategy, which without those earlier strategic pieces would have been pretty overwhelming to figure out what do we score, how do we score it, how many points do we award to it. But we had a pretty clear idea, for instance, that we wanted to know if a user was in Northwest Arkansas as opposed to Little Rock. And if so, we wanted to show them through personalization relevant resources and services specific to that area. So we were able to really think through, well, what are the indicators that would help us understand if someone is residing in Northwest Arkansas? At the top of our pyramid, we look at things like geolocation. If somebody has explicitly told us that that's their location, we can have a lot of confidence in that. But as you move to the bottom of the pyramid, you see that maybe not all users are choosing to geolocate. Not everybody opts into that. But maybe there's other indicators. For instance, if they came off our Facebook page that's specific to Northwest Arkansas, we can have a little bit of confidence that they might be from there. And then as they interact with more content on the website, maybe, for instance, they go to view the address for the clinic in that area, or they click on the phone number, we can start to have higher and higher confidence, and their points can start to build up. And eventually they can meet the threshold that we set and then start to see more personalized content based on scoring into that persona. So let's look at how this actually worked to end users. So here's how it all worked in practice. One of the core features of the website is when you hit the homepage, we ask users and give them the opportunity to personalize their experience with a simple prompt. Who are you? What are you looking to do today? They can select whether they're a patient, a donor, volunteer, researcher, employee. The list kind of goes on. And once they enter who they are, then this additional form comes up. We call this our onboarding form. This is where they can indicate who they are, but also where they're located. We're using geolocation to make sure we automatically recommend the nearest location which they then have the opportunity to adjust. And then on the right-hand side, there's a series of quick links that will change based on what you've completed, so that anytime they come back to their website, they can access the most relevant content to them.
And this is what they would see after they personalize. So you can see here the content, including the calls to action and the imagery even, is different based off of what type of user they are, whether they're a patient, a job seeker, or even a donor.
And then on the back end, we're tracking how people are self-identifying into these categories based on their behavior. And we're using different personas to capture that information. So for instance, maybe someone didn't complete the onboarding form, but they visited different pages on the website for referring physicians. We're scoring that content and their interactions and putting them into that medical professional persona. Or say a user told us they were an employee, but their child suddenly needs care, and they start to explore different programs, services, and doctors. Now they start to score into a hybrid persona we've created, which is an employee with a sick child. And so Sitecore has really been pivotal in allowing us to create these different types of personas, really track users and based on their behavior. And this helps us further optimize that personalization strategy. And here's another example where we're tracking specifically job seekers. Not only are we tracking if they filled out our onboarding form and said they were a job seeker, we're also tracking their interactions with the careers page. We're even tracking, did they come in from Workday, which is where all of our hiring positions are listed, or are they leaving to go to Workday? Those indicators can give us a lot of confidence. And we can also measure these interactions over time. We can see spikes and plan our marketing accordingly.
Just to recap, for us, the keys to success really included taking the time to do your research and understand your audience before you begin a big project like a web replatform, before you ever begin personalization. For us, that was critical to really getting that organizational buy-in and support from the very beginning, including key stakeholders at the table throughout the entire process, not just at the beginning, and really ensuring that your marketing and website goals directly align with your business goals so that you have organizational alignment. And for us, this resulted in a 125% increase in conversion rate in the months after our launch on Sitecore.
So before we leave you today, we thought we'd just leave you with a few final thoughts on how you can get your personalization strategy off the ground. So the first thing is to remember that personalization really is a journey. We started with cookie-based personalization, and we're now working on integrations with Marketo as well as the patient portal to optimize a user's profile and do things like online appointment scheduling. In the future, our hope is to allow patients and families to create an account on the website that's directly connected to the patient portal, but also allows them to save and manage bookmarks and information that would be relevant for them to share with other caregivers and family.
It's like Terry mentioned, our ultimate goal is really to create a best-in-class digital healthcare experience. A lot of healthcare experiences today are a bit siloed as far as you have one login for your portal, one login for your web experience, and the list goes on. And so our goal is really to create a single sign-on, one-stop shop for all things that our patients and families might need.
And lastly, just a few final thoughts. I can't tell you how glad we are that when we launched the website that we started with content scoring on day one. We weren't using personalization right away when we launched, but we made sure that all of our pages were appropriately tagged and scoring models were set up so that we started collecting all of that valuable data as soon as we launched. And so that way, when we were ready to personalize, we didn't have to wait months for the data to build up.
And also prioritizing ongoing learning, not only for the key stakeholders and leadership, like we talked about earlier, but really also for your own web and marketing team. Personalization was a new concept for our web team, and they've done a great job embracing it. But like Terry mentioned, it's a journey. It's not a one and done. And so for us, it's really about continuing to learn more about the system and what we can do to advance our personalization strategies. And also making sure you have the right strategic partners at the table. We talk a lot about vendors versus partners. And for us, I'm lucky to say that through our digital transformation projects, and especially our partnership with Sitecore, we've established some really great strategic partners who you see here on this slide.
So thanks for your time today. We hope that you got some valuable perspective that'll help you on your own personalization journey. Please check out Braindate for some opportunities to chat with us one-to-one. And I thank you again. Thank you, Stephanie.